Yeah, so it's my pleasure to introduce Angela Briggins. So Angela, we've known each other for about 4 years now. So she is the executive director of the Arbor of Hickory, and she's also an author and also dementia specialist, right? So she's going to help us today with the topics of dementia.
Good evening. So nice to be here and meet with each of you. And I met some of you beforehand, and I'll be staying around afterwards to also answer questions or chat with you. So hopefully I'll get to meet the rest of you that I didn't get to meet earlier. When I was asked to come speak, we talked about some different topics, and behavior is one that befuddles most people, even us in the professional world. And I've been doing this for 32 years. Behaviors are the hardest part because there's so much to think about, so much to do. And I wanted to make sure that we start off with a little bit of foundation information, and then we'll go into some techniques and some ideas or things to think about as you're experiencing something. So the first is, what is behavior, right? Behavior, if have been around for a while, we all know that behavior is just language. They're trying to tell us something, right? So any kind of behavior, if someone is doing this, trying to take something off, then maybe they have to use the restroom. Maybe they're hot and they want to take off their clothes. There's a lot of things we think about that they're trying to communicate. Because even if someone has language, that language doesn't always come out the way we will understand it. It may come out as word salad, where there's a lot of words and we don't know what that means. Or it's symbolic and it's not, go here. It's symbolic and it doesn't have an exact meaning for you unless you know them. So that behavior and the communication tie hand in hand. Part of what we need to know is, what do we know about the person? I'm going to step this way so I don't walk in front of the light. What we know about someone is really important. If someone loved water, loved to go swimming, they loved everything about water, they're going to respond to water differently than someone who didn't. They never liked showers, right? And we're trying to get a shower. We need to know about the person, whether you're the caregiver at home, a private caregiver coming in, or in a community. The more we know, the more we can understand their response to what we're asking someone to do. It's also important to know what our emotion is at the time. So if someone is getting agitated and flailing a little bit or raising their voice, we get affected. We're humans. It affects us. And it's really, really hard when it's someone we love to take that behavior and think, oh, it's just the dementia. It's not gonna bother me. It's gonna bother us. It bothers our caregivers in communities. It bothers private caregivers who are coming into your home. It hits you because that's not the person you knew, right? They're different, and I don't know what to do. This isn't what I lived with or lived how behavior was in the past. It's in front of me right now, and my emotional state is going to affect how I respond, which in turn is going to affect their behavior even more. And then our belief system. I can't tell you how many times I hear that, they know what they're doing. No. If they knew what they were doing, they didn't have dementia. That's the fact of it, right? If they really knew what they were doing, it wouldn't be dementia. It would be something else. And I hear that often. Mom knows what she's doing, and she just wants me to do it for her. She's just being stubborn today. She did it yesterday. Today, she's just being stubborn. She doesn't want to do it. She's not in the mood. Yeah, she may not be in the mood. She may be being a little stubborn, but that stubborn behavior may be because I'm more frightened today. I woke up to it and I'm a different person. It's the thing with dementia. Every day, you are walking into a room from moment to moment with someone who's different than they were 5 minutes ago. Maybe different than they were that morning or the night before. So it's taking that time and knowing they're not doing anything on purpose and they're not planning it. It's so often I hear they're doing it, they knew and they planned this, and like, they don't have that capacity. It's the same thing when I'm looking at someone moving into the community. I want mom to make the decision to move, and I'm like, mom doesn't have the capacity to make that decision. It's that same piece with the behavior. They don't have the capacity in most instances to make a choice on the behavior they're doing. They're responding to that fright or flight response. That is such a strong response. And it is innate in all of us. You see that from young children. I have a 3-year-old grandson at home. We definitely see it with him. And you see it all the way through life. And when you lose the capacity to control yourself, that impulse control, we hear a lot about frontal lobe dementia, all the things, the Lewy bodies, it affects the frontal lobe. The front part of your brain affects your impulse control. So when you are angry, we can get angry and we'll shake and we may hold our fist. But if they get angry, they don't have impulse control, that fist is gonna come out. The arm's gonna flail because they don't have the ability to stop. It's just not there. That impulse control is one of those things that get affected very strongly. It's a piece of them that is really hard. And your loved one's interpretation is really based on what they believe is happening. You know, when someone goes in to give someone up in the morning, you go in to get your loved one up in the morning and they don't recognize you. So a stranger is coming in and ripping the blankets off my bed. It's time to get up. What's your natural reaction? Grab the blankets and pull them up. You know, I want my privacy. I've always had my privacy. I've always had my dignity and privacy. I made decisions on my own. And now someone's coming in and doing something and I don't know who they are. I don't know what their intention is. Those are important things to set before we do anything else. When I go in a room and I'm going to be talking to someone or asking anyone to do anything for me, my first part is to sit down, eye to eye, and talk with them. See if I can connect. Connection is the thing that gives you the ability to take the next step. Without connection, you are a stranger, requiring them to do something and they don't know who you are, what you want, and what you're going to do with them. It's frightening. Fright or flight goes into effect, and it is powerful. Those are some of the reasons that increase that aggressive behavior. They don't know what you're doing. They don't know why you're doing it. And there's a lot of things in our history that we're going to talk about that might increase that. But really, it's the story that we're telling ourselves. I tend to, when people say something, I'm like, what story are you telling yourself? We can answer that, right? When we have a belief, what story are you telling yourself? They're telling themselves a story in their mind that's just plain, based on things that have happened in their lives. Based on the past, based on the way they're feeling that day, based on their cognitive ability. Mornings are usually better because we've had rest, right? So the brain isn't exhausted. Evenings are harder because we're tired and we don't have the ability to cope and deal with everything going on. And naps are downright confusing. Because when you wake up, is it morning? Is it night? What's going on? Who's here? What do you want me to do? There's a whole piece there that can cause even more confusion. And face it, the sun's gone, the sun's out. where are we? What time of day it is? It's that confusion piece that goes on. So one of the areas that I think we forget about is every single one of your loved ones that have dementia, either someone you've worked with, you're one of the vendors, or your own family, they had a life. They're probably pretty successful at life. They had a job. Maybe you raised children. Maybe you traveled. You paid your bills. You managed your household. You did the lawn. You had full control of your life. That is one of the things that dementia takes away. It takes away the control you have. So sometimes what happens is I'm going to take control without them thinking it. They're not planning it, but in their mind, it's I'm taking control of what I can. They say when someone stops eating, it may be the only thing they can control. Now, put that in my mouth, I can control that. I can close my mouth and tighten my jaw, and you're not getting anything in there. I can not take that shower. I'm going to fight against that. The more control we can give someone, and it doesn't matter the level of dementia that someone has, everyone can make decisions. You can hold out 2 articles of clothing. Which do you want? Always make sure that they're okay. You don't want to put, a short sleeve shirt and a heavy sweater. Those don't go together. Unless it's today or yesterday, because goodness gracious, let's say. We are in weather that's changing a lot. But hold out 2 things that are both okay with them. It's where we start out in life, and it's where we go back to in life sometimes. In some ways, is 2 choices that are both okay with you. It's not, do you want a shower? Would you like me to give you a shower? Would you like this person to give you a shower? Would you like it now or after you use the toilet? We want to make sure that they have choices that they can make, that they're safe to make still. And anything they can do, if you have dinner and you hand out 2 plates in front of them, set up 2 plates or show them 2 and choose which one they want. Every time they can make a choice and keep control, it gives them that ability to let someone else have control somewhere else. It's more relaxing. I still feel like I'm in control. Because if I don't feel like I'm in control, it's fight and flight again. I've lost control. The person that you love is still in there at some level, some emotional, deep level. It's allowing them to be who they were as often as they can. It's an important piece. We want them to be able to feel that. I said in here, we fiercely fought for our independence, and now they're fighting to hold on to it. It's true, right? We fiercely fought for our independence as we grew up. We learned how to do things, we took control, we did it. And now they're still fighting for that. So every time that we can allow them to have that control, it's one step for them. It's an honoring and a dignity for them that we want them to have. I always say when I can picture all these doors in our head, think of closets all around you. We take every memory and we keep it tucked in here somewhere. We don't think of them all at the same time. They kind of get put in like little shelves or little closets in our brain. As you have dementia, those doors that we closed, like maybe to something that was negative that happened, that was something we don't really want to remember, that wasn't pleasant, we lock all those doors tight. But with dementia, those doors, those locks open and the doors can fly open. It's why if you drop a book, things on the floor, and someone who's been in war dives down, that door was opened. They don't have control over it. They don't know when it's going to happen, but that door opens and they respond to it. So I've had residents who, when they were very young, went through abuse. And it's one of the things that for caregivers, for us to know, is that when we're taking care of them, we have to make sure that we're doing it in such a way that they feel like they have the ability for consent. That we're doing it in such a way that they feel comfortable. Maybe it's a man or a woman taking care of them because the abuser was the opposite. Maybe it's the time we take or the way we do it, or making sure that towels are held up for privacy, even when they're coming in the shower, out of the shower, or while they're trying to do things on their own if they're able. We want to make sure that if there's something in the past, that we can take that into thought and consideration when we're making decisions on how we're doing something. It's super important. And we see it all the time, and sometimes families will go, you know what, there's nothing in her past. And I'm like, well, you know, your mom had a life before she had you, and you may not know what's in her past. And sometimes what's in their past is something that they saw elsewhere on the news or someone else in the family, and they're responding to that. I had a resident once whose family, the father was a sheriff, and they talked about all the things going on at the dinner table. That person, as an elderly person with dementia, is traumatized at loud noises, at someone coming into her room at night, at care, because of all the trauma she heard throughout her life. And think about it, we're exposed to so much more now. When I'm living in a community, God help my caregivers, but I always say that they're gonna blackball me, because I've been in the industry far too long. I say, nope, we know you, you're done. We wanna make sure that we're aware, that we take into consideration what they did for a living. We take into consideration who they are, what they've been through, anything that's gone on. Because that's gonna affect how they respond to you when you ask them to do things. Because part of their behavior is based on their experience, just like ours is. Everything we do is based on our life behind us, right? They just can't sort out what happened 10 years ago with what's happening today. So for an example, let me talk to you about memories. We all have great memories, right? We think that they are so accurate. Yeah, I see people laughing in the back, they're like, yeah, no, that ain't true. And it's not. My mom loves to tell the story of when I was young and my grandfather's sisters were all over, and I held a tea party for them. And I poured tea into their cups and they drank their tea, and then I would refill their cups and they drank their tea and they thought it was so lovely. And my mom asked me, where are you getting the tea? And I took her into the bathroom and pointed at the toilet and said, tea. So all my aunts had been drinking toilet water all afternoon with a smile. Now, I don't know the story. I had a little, maybe a touch of a memory of it, because I couldn't have been more than 4 or 5, maybe 3 or 4. My grandparents moved in when I was 2, so I know I was older than 2. But I've heard the story so often from so many family members, I've taken it in as my own memory. So when a resident is talking about a birthday party or something that's happened to them, like this person did that, they're taking into every experience through their life. They take all the experiences through their life, they pick little pieces from each one, and that becomes the new memory. That's what they're responding to. So think about it in a positive sense. If someone's talking about a birthday party, much nicer to talk about a birthday party. We're talking about a birthday party. and they're telling you who was there and what they did and where it was at. It was at the beach and these 10 people were there and they're talking about it as if it happened last week. Well, maybe once they had a birthday party at the beach. Maybe these people came at another one. Last week was their birthday, so they remember a party. They take all of that together and develop one memory. Their responses to things you're saying, their responses to what you're asking them to do are based on the memory they've created from that whole line of experiences throughout their life. When you think about it, you're like, so many times people are correcting memories. No, they weren't there. That's not what we're doing, but it is, their memory is based on their mind at the moment and all the things that they've created. It's the same way when we ask them to do something and they get upset about it. Oh, you're doing this to me, you're telling me this, and they're, just flailing the arms, maybe not using words, but they're flailing the arms and they're upset about it, and you're like, what is going on? There's some other memories been attached to whatever you did, reminded them of something, it hit in the emotional state, and they may be responding to something that happened 10 years ago. But in their mind, in their memory, in their emotional state they're in, it feels like it happened today. So they're responding to that. Overwhelmed and overstimulated, isn't that our life? We're all overwhelmed, right? And being overstimulated happens a lot. Overwhelmed could be very simple. I took my mom has dementia, and I took my mom to JCPenney's to buy her a new pair of pants. My stepfather said, here's some money, go buy your mom pants. I can't do it. And I took her to a JCPenney's that was a ghost town. There was not a soul in there. And in the middle of that JCPenney's, my mom disappears into a bathroom and won't come out. And it took a long time for me to coax her out, and I had to take her into a dressing room and set her there. Because just the clothing racks was so overstimulating, she could not think straight. And she was frightened. And she didn't know what to do. And so she was being the little Portuguese woman she is. I'm gonna sit right here, and I'm not moving. I'm just gonna sit here, I'm not gonna move. So getting her to move and getting her to take the next step. Mom, we're gonna leave the bathroom and we're gonna go to a little room where you can feel safe, and it's only me who's gonna come in and see you. Get her out of all of the clothing that was overstimulating. Taking a loved one to a birthday party, a family celebration. It feels wonderful. Grandma's here. Isn't that great? And the great-grandchildren are running around and she's getting agitated. It happens because there's so much stimulation going on that they don't normally have. And the brain can only take in so much information. It gets overwhelmed very easily. We could sit here, most of us here sit here and we take in hundreds of pieces of information without even knowing it. We can hear, like I can hear the little fan over here. I can hear a buzz of the lights. I can see you moving. I can hear little things clicking or pages turning and writing. I can take all this information and keep going. But someone with dementia might only be able to take in a couple of pieces of information and the rest becomes overwhelming. And as soon as they're overwhelmed, they're either going to react and react big, or they're going to shut down. That aggressive behavior might be striking out that big reaction because I'm overwhelmed. There's too much going on. I'm hearing too much, I'm seeing too much. It becomes overwhelming and you react to that. The motor strip is, think of a headband. Women used to wear headbands and sometimes we still wear headbands. There are two strips here in the brain. One is the motor strip and one is the sensory strip. The motor strip is the one that is our physical movements and all, and the sensory strip is the one that tells us like, I'm cold, I'm hungry, those things. Dementia often affects both those strips. So the motor strip, that ability to do things, it will affect that piece, causing more frustration, causing more to be overwhelmed when you ask someone to do something, like, I need you to come over here and get on this table for the doctor, trying to get you on the table. But the motor strip is damaged and getting up there feels frightening, or I'm afraid of a fall. So you react, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna protect myself and react to that. The sensory strip is part of that taking control, is I'm no longer hungry. They may not feel hunger. My mom doesn't feel heat anymore. It could be 100 degrees. She lived in Manteca, California. It'd be 110 outside, and you would see my mom sitting in her chair with a heavy cardigan on and a blanket wrapped around her. And I'm like, I can't even walk in her house without sweating, in shorts and a t-shirt. And she's wrapped in blankets because that motor strip is broken. And as soon as I try to take the blanket from her, because you're gonna get overheated, I'm trying to protect her, and I'm trying to take away some of the things that I think she needs to have taken away, because she's gonna get overheated. Even though she can't feel the heat, her body is still responding to it. And she's like, no, she's wrapping it in. So it's working on how do we work through that process, knowing what processes have a weak link right now, and how do we get around them? How do we work through that process? But knowing where those weak links are, or why they get angry when you ask them, when we're trying to get them onto a table to see a doctor, or to go from one chair to another. I don't think I can do that. My body is not responding to what you want, so I'm going to shut down, or I'm going to act out. Overstimulated, that's again that sensory strip, sound, sight, and touch. Do you know that for someone who has dementia progresses, sometimes what's happening is their sensory to touch, especially around the lips, the fingers, the feet, and the genitalia become super sensitive. So that's why when someone needs help with toileting, they get reactive, because to them, that light touch is assaulting. Think about it. My grandmother was in a nursing home, and she told my aunt that every few days they beat her. And my aunt's like, I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. What are you beating my mom for? She's a sweet little old lady. Ends up, it was shower day. And the feel of the water from the shower hitting her skin hurt her so bad that she felt she was being beaten. Behaviors are, there's something behind them all. It's kind of paying Sherlock Holmes to figure out, what is it? Is it that they really feel they're being beaten? Are they frightened? Are they protecting themselves? People are going to ask me questions and I'm not going to know the answer, so I'm not doing that. And it's not that they're saying those words in their head, but they're reacting to something inside that doesn't feel right. There's still an emotional connection. It's why I'll often, be walking through my community and in with my residents, and they know what I'm feeling. They can sense what I'm feeling. There's that little connection. If I'm really joyful, I get joyful. If I'm feeling sad and I'm talking to a resident, there's a sense there. There's an emotional connection, because I get down and we sit and we chat. It's a tough piece, and our residents, your loved ones, have to remember, I'm not always at an assisted living, but your family members have the same emotions you do. We want everyone to be happy and cheerful and in a good mood every day, but we're not. We have days we're anxious. We have days we're angry and we're sad and we're overwhelmed ourselves. So do they. The easiest way to respond to that is acknowledge what they're feeling. Like I had a lady I was helping with care. Well, the caregivers were helping with care. I was sitting and chatting with her because there's a lot of response to care. And I looked at her and said, "You're angry." Yes. Doesn't respond to a lot else, but that was a big yes. And as soon as I acknowledged it, she stopped being aggressive. Because someone finally understood what she was feeling. Someone gave her the word for what she was feeling. You're frustrated, you're angry, you're sad. Yeah. Everyone has those emotions, whether they have dementia or not. But acknowledging them and getting through that is sometimes the way to get past a behavior. Because they want to be seen. We all want to be seen. We all want to be heard. And when we're not, when we're lost in dementia and people forget we are at some level still there, when someone finally acknowledges us, it's like, wow, okay, there's a calmness that can happen for at least a little while. You go back an hour later, it's not going to be there. And you may have to start over, but that's our life, right? That's the life that we're living, is always on a constant change and habit. So, went through a few things, talked about a few things, but I really want to hear from you. What questions do you have? What experiences are you going through? And Kristen's got a microphone for you.
Thank you for the presentation. Talk about behavior. I agree, connecting the logical place to start the next step. I believe trust is a critical part of it also.
Absolutely.
My question relates to, what do you do when, as a care partner, what do you do when you confront with behavior? Because behavior can be unexpected. Behavior can be expected, but unusual, may be different. Let me give you a hypothetical. What do you do when someone says, "I'm not taking those pills"? What do you do when someone says, "I'll call my sister this morning"? Of course, my sister's been gone for 10 years. What do you do when your loved one says, she picks you up and says, "I'll see you tomorrow. Where are you going?" My mother's down the street. I mean, what do you say when those things occur? What do you say? What do you do? How do you interact?
Absolutely.
Memory, connecting, and trust are key words.
Yeah, you have that connection, absolutely. You want to have trust and connection. The first thing, like when someone asks about someone who they loved, who are gone, usually what's happening either is an emotion that's come up, that is the person who was always there for me when I feel like this, or a memory's come up. I would say, tell me about your mom. Tell me about her. Because that allows whatever's on their mind to come out, and it'll give you a clue to who and where they are at that moment in time. Are they a teenage girl looking for their mom? Are they looking for a spouse that's passed away because I'm afraid today and I feel anxious and he was my rock? That's what's going on. I'm not taking the pills as a behavior that we see a lot, right? And, you can step back. First thing I always do is step back and say, you're right. And we'll take them in a little while. Because one of the things when someone is defensive, I'm a master practitioner in neuro-linguistic programming, which is the study of language and how it affects behavior. So if someone's defensive, I'm not going to do that, and you can't make me. They are ready for you to argue with them. They are on the defensive and you're gonna argue and I'm ready for you. And as soon as you say, you're right, the brain goes, what? Because you've confused it. It's ready to argue and you told them they're right. And then you say the word and blank. And I'm gonna get apple juice for you to take it with today. And I'll come back in a little bit and we'll try them. And we're gonna be taking them then. Whatever you say next, you have about 5 seconds or so, is taken as truth by the brain. When someone's ready to argue with you, and you tell them they're right, the first thing when the brain goes, what? Whatever you say next, you have about 4 or 5 seconds to add something in, the brain takes it as truth. Mhm.
Boy, that's very creative.
You don't have that dementia for it to work. It works, it is just the power that the brain has. It's something in the brain that when you're ready to fight with someone and they say you're right, you're like, what? Whatever they say next. There's also the power of 3 truths. Yes, you know, we have medication and you don't want to take it and one more. Medication, you don't want to take it, the doctor really wants you to have it, and if you get 3 things that people can agree with, they nod that agreement. This is what salespeople use. 3 yeses means that whatever you say 4th is a yes, and it's true. It's 3 tricks for neurolinguistic programming. How the brain is affected by language.
This is perhaps a little similar, but
Yeah.
we're having some issues with a parent who is, who have got some decline memory and other confusion, a lot of confusion. And she needs help. And, we're just starting to get into the prognosis, but she is adamant that she doesn't have a problem. So she's very reluctant or even refusing to go to the doctor. She can't even get the help she needs. Kind of along the lines of maybe a validation, you're right, you don't have to take a pill, but we're trying to contend with how do we get her to accept help before she has an accident or somehow crumples and it's an emergency.
Yeah, because at that point, you need to make sure that she's on the right medications, that things are set up right, because some of those things will help stabilize her some. My instinct says, have someone come to her, 1, and it's gonna be, you're right. You're able to do so many things on your own. You're able to get yourself dressed and take a shower and, do this. And we want to make sure that the doctor's giving you the right medication. And so someone's coming and they're just gonna go over your medications, make sure they're all right for you. Make it in a way that she has some power, because you're gonna get the defensiveness. You say, you're right, you're able to do these things. Acknowledge what she's able to do. Let her know, we see what you are good at. We see the positive things. We see what's going right. And we want to make sure that it continues that way, that you can continue to stay independent as you want to be. This is how we could do it. And there are a lot of groups that'll come, doctors and medical groups that'll come to your home and do an assessment and look at medications and do all those things for you there and charge it to their insurance, like any other doctors. And do that for you. If you see me afterwards, give me your information, I'll give you a name of a group that does that we use quite often. And they'll do all that in the home, so you can make sure that things are going the way you want it to. Because medication is the first thing that brings someone to a community. You get medication right and get them stabilized, sometimes that will help tremendously with everything you're going through. And gives you more time before you get the next stage. Other questions? Yeah.
My father just recently passed and my mom has dementia. They were slated to go into an assisted living. The whole time she never wanted to go. She's like, oh, he can go, I'm gonna stay home.
Mhm.
So I keep saying, this is what dad wanted you to do, you know, you really need to go. She does not recognize her deficiencies at all.
Mhm.
And you talk about a cornered animal,
She's it,
flight or fight,
yeah.
all of that. And I just don't know how to overcome all of that. And get her on board to move, or do you just move them anyway? I mean,
I would confront the emotion first. It must be so frightening. You lost dad, who was our rock. And now we're talking about you not being in your house where you feel most comfortable. That's gotta be so scary. That's gotta be just absolutely frightening. Have those pieces of conversation. Because when we can't rationalize with someone with dementia because they don't have that ability. Dad wanted you to. Dad never said that to me. Yeah, I may have heard that in 32 years a time or two. I've never said that.
That's anything wrong. I mean, you know, and it's like you said, if you start listing all the things that they do wrong, they feel guilty.
They don't recognize it, yeah.
What you're trying to do, but
No. You want to find the things that she's doing well. You're doing so well at this and this. And look at this, but it's got to be frightening because it's frightening to go somewhere where you don't know people. Think about your own first day in junior high or high school, or you went to a new school and you're like, oh, new group. You came here tonight, you didn't know some people. It's frightening. And for someone whose comfort zone, like, you know, I'm always amazed if you ask someone, you know, can you tell me where to get a coffee cup? And they can't tell you, but they walk right there. They open the cup and they can hand it to you. Muscle memory in their home, muscle memory of how they do things is how they get things done. They couldn't tell you how to do it. They're not sure how they're getting it done, but their muscle memory in the same environment. So you take her out of that environment, it's frightening. Because I'm not gonna know where anything is. It's really frightening. So helping her first address some of those emotions, it's scary. The thought of this is frightening. It's scary for me too. Because I want you to be comfortable and I need peace of mind that you are safe. And but I want to say that if you're dealing with her emotion, you can talk about your emotion.
yeah.
And it's more likely to be accepted, because you're not just saying, I'm frightened and you have to go do this. No, you're scared. You're frightened. It's okay. I get it. I'm scared too. So you're connecting with her and her emotion. Instead of saying, I need this for me, you're gonna connect with both of you. Yeah, because Dad's not here to say, yes, I said that.
The bus is there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's interesting. It's usually when one spouse passes, that's when you see the level of dementia in the spouse left behind. Like, mom got dementia after dad died. No. Mom and dad together were one whole person. And now that one of them is gone, either in hospital or has passed, that's when you see how much they had picked up, because you pick up for your spouse without even thinking about it. You don't even think about it as it's happening until you look back and you go, oh, dad used to do all of those things and I'm doing them now. Or, you know, you come in as a child and you look back and you go, God, you know, mom's paying the bills, now dad always paid the bills. They're picking up for each other because that's what we do with people we love. I got thunder outside, it's lovely.
Is this probably the mic?
We'll switch.
Yeah.
Thunder just loves me. I like the rain, it's okay. Other questions?
My father has dementia and I would say he's redirectable, he's kind of happy-go-lucky and, he's a different
Enjoy.
person right, he's a different person than he used to be, like, he's more social now, and it's like funny, because he like eats whatever they serve him in the independent living, like for dinner, he'll eat the fish and the vegetables, he never would eat anything with sauce, and now he's like, oh, this is delicious. So it's sort of funny, it's like he doesn't remember that he doesn't like those things.
Yeah.
But my question is, does he know, like, do they realize that they have a problem? Or when they say something completely off the wall and I just agree, yeah, that's right, it was snowing yesterday when it wasn't. Because in 10 minutes, he'll ask me again about the weather, or like, it doesn't matter if I agree or don't agree, because he won't remember, but does he realize that he's doing that? Or is every conversation like crazy town to him?
Everybody's conversation is kind of new. I always remember, I have a belief, and I have a very firm belief in this, that I never lie to a resident, to anyone that has dementia. I do not lie. I do not do what's called the therapeutic lie that people that are taught in nursing school. I don't believe in it. I was trained under Naomi File, who passed away this last year, one of the founders of dementia care in the world. And I actually went to her home and trained with her for a day in her home, which was my bucket list in my life to this very day. That's one of the most amazing moments in my life. And she always taught, you always tell the truth. Now, if they tell me it's snowing outside, I can go along with that. I love the snow. Isn't snow great? You can talk about the snow, it's so cold when it's snowing. But I don't say, and did you see the horses come through the snow? No. And it's the same as when someone asks about someone who's passed away. I'm never gonna say, that person's dead, mom died. I'm not gonna say that they're at work. Or they'll be here later after dinner, because I can tell you, if that person who's been dead for 5 years comes in and the door after dinner, I'm running out the back door. I ain't staying for it. I'm gonna ask, tell me about them. I have great memories of Dad. Tell me about Dad. My favorite story about Dad is this. Share those thoughts. When my grandfather moved in when I was 2, and his dementia got going and moved along, and I'd come in and he'd say, Rosie! He would talk to me because he thought I was my mom. I would answer as myself, but never correct him. I answered to Rosie, answer as myself, and at some point, for a while, he'd go, wait a minute, you're not Rosie, you're Rosie's daughter. Yes, that's who I am. And we would continue our conversation. Not a big deal. So if someone's asking questions over and over, it may be they're trying to tell you something that's not really about snow. So you kind of have to, it's a little bit of Sherlock Holmes. What might be going on? Did he always like the weather? Is this something new? Yeah, it's very common. I worked in Modesto, California, which is the home of Munster Farms chicken. And most of the residents I told, we don't eat chicken. Don't serve my mom chicken. She worked at Foster Farms for 40 years. She doesn't like chicken. You're like, okay, well, your mom ate 2 helpings last night. And she loved it. She would have eaten more because they don't remember that piece. Different things have opened, and it may be something when they were a kid, they weren't as picky. They were more social then. And some of those habits are coming back, or the inhibitions are down. So they're responding as they feel comfortable right now. They're not as overwhelmed with life, so their brain is able to function more clearly.
One last question.
There we go. Just in time.
How do we know when it's progressing beyond our control? We're sisters, and our father's showing some signs. He's parks in parking lots and produces cars for an hour. Call us, or they get a lot of short-term memory issues, and when we go on vacation, doesn't ever remember the room and stuff. So I guess I'm always asking, like, how do we know when we need extra help, or when he's ready for us to, like, get to him on care, or. But, yeah.
First thing I always look at is safety. Safety is number one. It's the number one answer for everything. Are they safe in their home? Are they leaving and going somewhere where they can't get back from? Are they doing something like leaving the stove on and forgetting to turn it off, or, you know, let's make sure someone else is doing their medications. Let's start there. Safety is the number one piece. And the other piece that's hand in hand with that, what is your peace of mind? Where are you? Are you able to sleep well at night? Do you feel dad is safe where he's at? Do you feel comfortable in his living situation or what's going on? Because if you're not having peace of mind and you're uncomfortable, you're gonna be the one who's gonna get sick and in the hospital. Because we are lovely caretakers. We love the people we care for. And we will love them so much and care for them so hard that we end up in the hospital if we're not caring for ourselves. We have to know that you're okay. So if you're questioning, is dad safe? I think that's a time that you go, I don't think dad's quite safe. Maybe I need to look at this or some other piece that might make him more safe. You know, is his medication right? Is he staying in his home at night so we know he's safe there? What's gonna happen? Because it's our peace of mind that's gonna keep us going. If we feel like they're safe and things are going okay and they're managing, great. But when they're not, when you can't sleep or one of you have to be at his house at every moment, something's gotta give. So that's kind of where I'll look at safety, and dignity is the other piece. Are they doing something that if they realized they were doing it, they would be horrified? They would be humiliated. They would be devastated. That's the other piece. So safety and dignity are the two pieces that I always look at when I'm looking whether someone needs some more support in anywhere of their life. And that's true even if they don't have dementia. Safety and dignity, two of the main pieces on whether you need to move forward with some home care, some moving into a community, medication management being taken over, whatever it is, those are the pieces I always look for first. So I think I'm getting the cutoff. I'm getting the hook. Please, I'm going to be in the back. I am selling my book back there. So it's right there, Finding Rose, and it is my real family story in there, along with 32 years of other experiences in there. But the book is to teach you how to stay engaged and connected with the one you love and how to respond to some of those questions that you're asking. But I'll be back there answering more questions. I'll stay until they kick me out. So let me know if you need something. This is what I do.